Hello, coasters. Happy pod day. Yay. We're back with another kind of shorter pod than normal. We've kind of discussed between Raji and myself. We're kind of going to split up our pods into news pods and then review pods where, we've been going over Sad AM because, to give you the best analysis and, commentary that we can, it takes time. Isn't that right, Radrey?
For sure.
Yes, thank you for supporting my statements there, Radrey, buddy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, what do you want me to say? Like, Malzilla, you're correct. You do everything you say is correct. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I want you to say.
All right, okay. All right.
No,
No,
just
you got more to say?
yeah.
All right,
Again,
we're already starting off. It's already awkward. All right, okay.
it's awkward.
Yeah. So pretty much, yes, we're gonna split these two into two different ones. If we have any editors out there who are interested in editing, we'd love to have you
We'll
come
give you a
join
free
us.
spot on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. We can make some compromises. My people will talk to your people. We'll do lunch. No, and that's
We're
one.
easy to negotiate with it.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's not a joke. That's like legit. Like we're actually really looking for people. But yeah. So we're pretty much gonna edit these two different episodes differently. I mean, they're gonna be uploaded differently. This episode that you're hearing right now is going to be the new show, and then the other one is going to be the Sadam review. I said this based upon
More content.
Yeah, more content. I mean, this is based upon one of our listeners in our Discord server, Asul. Thank you, Asul, for your feedback. We really do appreciate feedback. It's great to hear from you.
Be
Whether
like
it's
us,
negative
give
or
us feedback.
trolly or whatever, we like hearing your feedback. But pretty much, yes. We don't want to make too long of an episode. I can tell that's probably turning off some viewers. Again, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Be part of our conversation. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Blue Sky. Join our Discord. Come chat with us. It's my birthday. Give me a birthday present and come join our Discord.
Happy birthday,
I see you.
Malzilla.
Yes, it's 35 years around the sun. I'm getting old, but
35
yeah.
years of cool, if you ask me.
Oh, I thank you, Radrey. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of people who have been following us on Twitter. Again, just click the link, join us. I'll make sure the link's working. Come join, come talk, share your memes.
Hey,
opinion.
anyone who is a Sad Am fan who remembers this show is awesome in my book. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. That show is awesome. I'm gonna defend it to the death. I will go to the grave, saying Sad Am was one of the best shows of my entire life. So there. Everybody writing that down? Better write it down.
Everyone, it's written down. It's written down.
So, Malzilla, we have an agenda. We have things to talk about. Things.
Yes. So, news. It's been happening. So, we're going to start off our news on the comic front. So, basically, what's been going on? We've had some interesting comic news on both the American and Japanese front. We'll start off with the American because it's a lot less controversial. First off, let's start off with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Because we're ethnocentric. That's why.
Yes, ethnocentric. So,
that's a joke.
IDW
that's a joke for everybody. That's a joke. Continue, Malzilla.
Yes. Yes. So IDW issue 73 has hit stands. The second.
Wait, has it really? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
it came on Wednesday. So, if you recall, the last couple of issues, were a little slow as they kind of worked through the middle of the story. I didn't think the pacing was all that great. 73, puts us into the setting up the end game. It's really good. So just kind of give you a little
the
rundown
end game,
of what
you
happened.
say?
Yes, the end game, or Clutch's end game, we should say.
All right.
So issue starts up. Jewel kind of walks onto the bridge of the restoration carrier and starts chewing out Clutch about saying there are some shenanigans afoot, and she's feeling disrespected, and he's kind of just going yada yada. But she tries to flex on him a little bit, but then kind of makes the comment that the security works for him. So and it seems like the security is kind of bullying the regular restoration employees. So you can kind of tell that there's a Jewel, who seems, everyone's kind of seems like she's been out of sorts. It's very clear that there's a balance of power shifting going on, and it's not good.
I
It's
see.
not good. So so yeah, Jewel knows that the power shift for the restoration is getting out of her hands, and she kind of realizes that she's been kind of getting duped. So she reaches out to Tangle and Whisper and kind of says, "Hey, something's going on. The Phantom Rider, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Oh yeah, the Phantom Rider's Sonic." She's like, "Oh, that actually makes total sense." Like she just accepts it, like no surprise. Jewel's like, "Yeah, this all makes sense." So they kind of plan like, "Oh, we need to stop Clutch, blah blah blah." So while that's going on, it's the final leg of the little riders event. Um, they're gonna, they put out a little note that's saying, yeah, the Phantom Rider is your security, blah blah blah. They start the adventure, which is basically, it seems like a massive game of chicken, where they're just gonna basically, whoever pulls up at the last minute wins. But Sonic comes in as the Phantom Rider, starts styling on them, starts causing a commotion, doing the locomotion, causing a commotion, and we get this really cool battle where Surge just basically jumps off her bike and tries to jump on his little egg gear, and then meanwhile, like, freaking Lanolin is shooting her little, because she has a wisp too. People forget that she's got like a little music wisp, which apparently she used at the Phantom Rider, and Sonic kicked it away like a total boss. So Kit kind of starts grabbing people with his water tentacles, and then Tangle grabs Surge with her tail, and then Surge just you know, zaps Tangle, and then pretty much she and Sonic have their little clash, but in a double amazing reference, Surge bounces off Tangle, but Sonic jumps off his gear, and he does the Rider Kick, or a variant of the Rider Kick, which again, the Phantom Rider being a Common Rider, Mashed Rider homage, does the famous move of the Common Rider, which is the Rider Kick, and he cries out "Harry-ah" as he's doing it. Now, of course, Eagle Eye Sonic fans will realize that was a battle cry that Sonic used in SA2 when he fought the Egg Golem. So, double
What?
reference.
Okay.
Yeah, I tweeted about it. That's why y'all should check our social media. I marked out and said he said and did the thing,
Why does that hurt me? Anyway, continue.
because you aren't down with the tokusatsu like I am.
Okay. It's a tokusatsu thing?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Rider Kick is, that's the famous move of the Common Rider. Kind of
Okay.
this big old jump kick.
Oh,
Which
that's what that's a reference to.
yeah.
Okay. It's
So
not an
you get
SA, it's not an SA2 reference?
no. Well, the SA2 reference is him crying out "Teria." So it's a
Okay.
double reference. So it's you know, the action is the reference to Common Rider, but the battle scream, him crying out "Teria," is a SA2 reference.
I take it you love this moment.
I did. I
Okay.
marked
All
out
right. All
a
right.
lot.
Fair enough.
It got a lot of little social media traction that we got on the page. People liked it as well. So
All right.
though
Okay. I guess I'm
one
in the
thing that
minority.
made
Continue.
one thing that actually made me happy, if I side tangent a little bit, is that I saw a lot of people you know didn't know what this was, and who didn't know what Common Rider was, and now they're like, oh, Common Rider is a badass. I'm like, yes, Common Rider is a badass. You should all watch it. There's a zillion versions. You know, just watch Tokusatsu. I don't care which one you watch. It's fun to see, people turn in these little armored and do poses. It's awesome. I love it. Um, so that happens. So Sonic kind of kicks Surge, and Surge starts falling down, but she smiles because it turns out she grabbed like one of his parts of his morpher, and so Sonic demorphs, and everyone's just like, "Oh my God, Sonic the Hedgehog is the Phantom Rider!" And then Sonic yells at Surge what his game is, and she's like, "Happy now, boss. The Phantom Rider has been destroyed, just like you asked." Now Clutch hears this, and he's upset. So Clutch is upset. Meanwhile, shift change to Amy, Tails, and Belle as they're running, getting chased by uh, Rough and Tumble. Now, they actually manage to dodge, and then they meet up with Dawn, the rooster, who's been looking for the Chaotix because the Chaotix were, investigating, but they actually got captured, and they find them, and they all reunite and excited. But it turns out that they have a flash drive with all the evidence to save the day and reveal Clutch. But Clutch and his security team show up, and he says, "It's been a long time since I really had to got my hands dirty, but you know what they say, if you want a job done right, best do it yourself." So issue ends as we sets up the penultimate Clutch and his security team versus the heroes inside, which really should have no problem dealing with them because they deal with Eggman stuff all the time. So that's that issue. Is very good. I enjoyed it. We also, in the terms other IDW news, we got a little bit of preview for the twice delayed annual. Uh, good old Ian Flynn will be returning to write a story about Surgeon Kit. They seem to be doing some heroing, and then we're also getting another story with Knuckles. We should be hopefully getting that issue out in a couple weeks, provided it's not delayed again. That's about all. Oh, one more thing, IDWIs. Issue 76 through, I believe, 81 will be a 5-issue arc written by Ian Flynn. Evan's taking a little quick break. Ian's coming in to do happy days there. Good to have you back, Ian. I like Ian and Evan, but it's kind of fun to see what they do differently. And that's about all the IDW news. For the other comic news, we go across the Pacific to Japan, and the Shadow manga has caused a little bit of a controversy because obviously it's only being released in Japan. There at this time there is no at least word on an official English translation and release. So, but naturally, it's the internet. It's manga. They've been doing this for years. People have been scanning it and posting it and translating it. But it's gotten to the point where both the writer and CoroCoro, the actual, manga company, has been have issued statements saying, "Please don't do this, or we'll basically not do the manga anymore." So
You can't see me, Malzilla, but I'm rolling my eyes. Yeah.
Well, give us a little rundown. Why are you rolling your eyes?
All right. Well, first, let me start off. I'll just say that I'll play the devil's advocate here, and I'm just gonna say maybe they don't have a division for writing something in English, and it costs money to make a division to write something in English. But given what I know about Japan, and maybe you're probably familiar with lots of English and things that are in English, and they're in bad English basically. And I can tell you the reason for why that is. Because usually what happens is the way a company works in Japan is they find one guy who maybe speaks English, and then they leave the entire task up to him or her to do everything. Like, this isn't a localizer. This isn't a professional. They just pick somebody that was in their team. Now, it may be a situation where usually what it is that sometimes they don't want to localize it because either A, because of time, or B, because they don't want to, and this is true, because they don't want to be embarrassed by any mistakes they may make in English, right? And which is especially pretty funny because sometimes I do read, like, I don't know if you, I mean, not to get political here, but I do remember a tweet. I think it was a tweet by Prime Minister Suga at the time, who was the former Prime Minister of Japan, where he tried to tweet. I forgot who he tried to tweet at. I can't remember if it was Joe Biden or Trump, but and like if you read that tweet, it reads like a person who's like sweating to like write a proper English sentence, like to make sure it's not grammatically there's no grammatical mistakes. And I gave you another example. There is a university in Osaka that is known as the Kinki region, right? So the word kinky in English has an entirely different meaning, right? So when they would go overseas and they say, "Oh, I study at Kinky," right? People would kind of snicker and laugh. And I'll tell you one thing, they really did not like this. So because of that, they changed the entire university to Kindai University. So I know this is like a mom story. I know, but this is important. I'm just saying that this may be the reason why there's so much resistance, to producing the manga in English. It's probably one of these reasons. So with that in mind, that's probably why we don't have a localized version. Maybe they just didn't think about it because they probably, I guess I know that because we've talked about it on this show. Sega Sammy knows that the majority of their audience is in America. Maybe contrary to what some people have told me online, you know who you are. I know who people who've responded to me. Maybe it's really popular in Latin America. Maybe it's really more popular in Europe. Maybe there's not really good hard data. I don't know. But basically, what I'm given what the Sega Sammy report says, that Sonic is mostly popular in the United States, maybe Europe, and maybe Canada. I'm not sure how the ranking is. I'd have to look. I don't have it up in front of me. But that, from based upon, memory, this is their main focus. So, given that, I guess maybe they were just unaware or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but there's probably a situation to where they made this shadow manga, but only for like Japanese fans, not really for Americans. They didn't really have them in mind. But of course, people like us who are Sonic fans, we want to see this. We want to read it, And maybe you could make the argument that you could say CoroCoro is widely acceptable or accessible. You can buy it online. You could internationally have it shipped to you. You could go to Kinokuniya in your area. Sure, that's fair, right? But I would also argue that, given how it's being sold and how it's being marketed, it's not like, for example, the way IDW is being marketed. It's not really like you're reading IDW right now and you say, hey, there's a foreign, IDW, or not, excuse me, there's a foreign, CoroCoro manga in Japan that we'd like you to buy. It's not like this is being advertised through IDW or through the proper channels, to where Sonic fans can actually buy the manga. So it's just sort of like when you leave something that's so inaccessible, of course, people are going to resort to piracy and, fan localizations. So to me, it's just sort of like, I probably, to be fair to the people at CoroCoro, maybe they really can't do anything but just make a statement to say, hey, please don't pirate the manga. I mean, it's a little weird. It's sort of like your dad saying, like, like, if you kids make one more noise, I'm turning this car right around now, right? And it's like that Simpsons episode where Bart hits the dad in the back of the head, and then he drives the car back around to go all the way back home so they can't enjoy the vacation. That's sort of what that feels like. Like, okay, sorry, Dad. I mean, You're like, come on, man. I'm 37-year-old man. I don't need to have somebody tell me this. I mean, again, too, uh, Malzilla and like a bunch of my other friends have talked about this before. Excuse me, not before, but talked about this. Is that um the way the attitude towards the statement that CoroCoro has presented, it's pretty much like making me feel like I'm in 2003 Japan, you know? Or not, excuse me. I shouldn't say 2003 Japan. I should say Japan is like it acts like it's in 2003 while the rest of the world is in 2024. So, um as if you may, I don't know how our listeners gauge the internet or look at things that are on the internet or what their opinions are on this CoroCoro manga. I would personally, I've read it and I think it's interesting. I'd like to see them develop the story a little further. I don't think they really introduced any new elements that are particularly interesting to the Shadow lore, but those are my thoughts overall. So anyway, Malza, I've talked a lot. What are your thoughts? You got something to add to this?
Uh, with anything is you want to support the official release if you can. This is a different but kind of similar situation to like Archie comics. I
Is it?
mean, again, I know, I mean, think about it this way. Let me explain. Um, with like the Archie Sonics, they're not in print. There's legal reasons. Yeah, we all know about that. Archie can't
Oh,
reprint
that's what you
them.
mean. I see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So access to them is very limited, and you basically have to pirate unless you want to drop like $50 an issue on eBay or wherever.
Yeah, depending on the
And
issue too, right?
yeah, depending on the issue. Um, this is a situation where I think there are reasonable things. Like I don't know. CoroCoro isn't owned by Shueisha. I take it, correct?
I don't know. It's not like
Maybe. Okay,
normal people are supposed to know these things. It's sort of like, okay,
that's
I'll
true.
I'll tell you one thing. I mean, let me butt in a little bit here. When people write things like on YouTube or on, I don't know, just simply selling something, if you write everything in Japanese, not everybody's going to be warm to that. They're going to think, oh, this is in a different language. I don't know what this means. And then they skip it, you know? It's sort of like, I'm sure. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. Maybe I've said this before and I'll say it a million times because I got to preach it. People just push the translate button. They don't actually officially read the actual characters. They don't read what word for word what it is they're saying because the way the Japanese language is structured, it's much different than English. And a lot of the time, I see people always trying to respond back to some of people in Japan using translators that use very direct language, which just comes off as rude and sort of offensive at times, to the point where it's like, dude, just write back in English, man. you know, like I don't really know how to say this to some people, but I'm just saying this is a thing. It's a problem. It's going to continue. So what I'm saying is, if you're listening, just put the title in English and try to push a little bit for English. I mean, even like what is it? Okay, let me start off here. Archie itself, it advertised in the very couple of first issues that the Sad show is around. It put information in there to advertise this. You can just have like a little small snippet to tell me that this exists. You know what I mean? I don't think this is anywhere in IDW. Am I correct?
I mean, because IDW is its own thing. It's not.
Exactly. So yeah, so I'm saying I think I'm right about this.
Well, I think the point I was trying to take it at is like, for example, Shueisha is the company that owns all the Jump magazines, and
Yes.
I think they own either Viz or a major stockholder in Viz Media here in the States, which is what they send it over to get translated and become accessible, through manga purchases, digital manga purchases. So, you know, companies have found avenues to get the product over here. Um, it if Sega and CoroCoro have no desire to, you know, get it over here, that's their choice. If it's gonna be they're trying to make it a Japanese exclusive, okay, again, that's their choice. It's gonna end up on the internet regardless. That's just the world we live in.
Remember,
And
kids, it's not piracy; it's privateering. Hey,
exactly. When you're a
I'm gonna get in
professional
trouble for that
pirate.
statement, but I don't care.
Okay. Um, and again, I think they've kind of talked about, the manga, getting, the paid work. And yeah, if you know anything about manga Japan, the writers, authors, their lives are not fun to produce.
Oh yeah, it's
They get paid,
rigorous. It's
it's
very
rigorous,
rigorous.
and they don't get paid a whole lot. But, at the end of the day, I think it was a weird statement to make.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just, it feels like there's Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, and it's only just gonna roll back on them. Maybe, quite frankly, the Shadow manga, if anything, it feels like what would be considered a mini series. You mean to make it like an actual ongoing feels really, really weird. So
Yeah, it's very disconnected from the rest of Sonic, right?
yeah, I
It's
mean,
very it's
again,
very
I think,
odd.
well, like we've talked about, it's clearly they're trying to, you know, increase the popularity of Sonic in Japan. There are Sonic fans in Japan. You see stuff around, but at the same time, it's not as prominent as you think. And I think a lot of Sonic fans who are going to Japan now because it's so easy to travel to Japan. It's very cheap to travel to Japan if you're a foreigner. They're Some of them are getting in for a rude awakening that realize that it's not as big as they thought it was over here.
Oh yeah, no, I always have. Did I say this in the show? I can't even remember. But like when I went to America, I went to Target. There's Sonic stuff. When I go to Walmart, there's Sonic stuff. When I go to any of the big box stores, Barnes and Noble, there's Sonic stuff, right? Toys, books, little small like board games, all this stuff, right? All these cool little, Sonic paraphernalia. You come to Japan, it is a challenge to find Sonic merchandise. A challenge. So it's not like it's simply like it grows on trees here. It's sort of like Mario and his gang are very simple to buy here. You can go to the convenience store, you'll find Mario merch. You can go to, your local Seiyu, which is like Walmart of Japan. They definitely have Mario stuff, right? It's just it's not a thing as much as it is in the US because obviously they've whatever Sega of America has done, to keep the brand alive, to keep it prevalent. I would argue they're doing a much better job because here in Japan, they kind of, I'm not, I mean, maybe you could say I have a bad gauge on what I'm seeing, but at the same time, like whenever there's like limited merchandise that comes out in Japan, it's always like what they call gente. It's always limited. And sometimes it sells out, sometimes it doesn't. And usually the way, or at least the way I understand how businesses work in Japan, is sometimes they make enough product only to really just push to make even. So, for example, I was about to go to this convention that pretty much only let people in if what is it? They bought a ticket, right? I know normally conventions have ticket prices and everything, but like these tickets were expensive. But the thing was, if enough people bought tickets, then the admission was free. Then everyone can go in. And that's just sort of how it worked. So pretty much, I guess that's one way you could kind of gauge on like how Sonic stuff sells in Japan, given the amount of merch is available and how much is actually bought in. And I guess also, I mean, another thing too is like with merchandise as well, or at least what I've seen in Japan. Like sometimes you see merchandise being sold. Like for example, Shadow the Hedgehog is really big because such limited amounts of Shadow the Hedgehog were made. which makes, the product much more valuable and much harder to find. So, I mean, that's the picture of what it looks like in Japan to, when it comes to products with Sonic.
Yeah, it's a interesting thing. Do you have anything more to say about it?
That's pretty much it. I'm an open book. I mean, I could go on, but I think that pretty much lays it the rest and gets all my talking points out of the way.
Okay.
Questions,
Well,
Malzilla. Questions.
I got no questions,
All
but
right.
just want to let our coasters know that this is an ongoing thing, and we will keep our eyes out open for it. So,
Yeah. Also, I
should
just want to
something
state too that if anybody wants Japanese merch from Japan, I mean, I'm happy to send it to you. I won't rip you off like some of these companies are doing. I'm telling you, some of these places are ripping people off.
Radrey imports exports.
Yep. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Well, that wraps up our comic information. So, but we have some other new stuff. In the movie news, obviously, if you've kind of seen the Twitters, a super exclusive shadow poster of him basically doing a Akira slide, but not the one from the movie. They made a bunch of 12 by 18 posters. They had Keanu Reeves sign a few of them, and they've kind of distributed them to the various theaters that were showing Transformers 1. I saw it last night. I grabbed a couple, gonna send one to Radrey and some other friends. And
Hey.
yeah, it's a nice poster. Transformers 1 is actually really good. I do highly recommend it. It's 10 times is better than any of the live action Michael Bay films.
Michael Bay's not
This might be
involved. Is that true?
he's a producer, but it's pretty clear that that's
Good.
just
Get
a
him out of here.
courtesy.
Get out of here.
It's great.
Go
Like
go bay
the
up
tri-
something else, but not Ninja Turtles
exactly.
again. That was gross. Don't do that. Stay
Yeah.
away.
Let me tell you, they do in this one film what George Lucas tried to do with the prequels and three films, and the Transformers are much more successful in doing it.
Okay.
So there's that. But let's this is something that literally came up today. So, as today, September 21st at the time of recording, though at this time there's only about 20 minutes left.
Oh
So,
yes.
or it's about soon to be Sunday, the 22nd. Um, Basically, September 21st, I'm excited because it's my birthday. Yay. But apparently, today's also Batman Day, which is kind of weird. So naturally, everyone
Remember,
was
kids.
supporting it.
Remember Batman Day.
Da 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 Batman.
I don't.
I didn't. I didn't
But
even remember this Batman Day,
does
but
anyone
apparently, yeah.
remember it? Like, how dare you, Radley or Malzilla, for forgetting Batman Day? We're done. Unsubscribe.
This is my villain
I'm
or,
taking my
villain
like
or
back. You know.
religion origin story. But what surprised everyone is that uh, the official Sonic Twitter released, animated by Tyson Hess and his wife, according to Tyson on Twitter, a little short honoring Batman, but uh, the person behind the cowl wasn't a person; it was a hedgehog. It was Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that
So,
was a
uh,
surprise. That was a big
so,
surprise.
and, so everyone's kind of like, "Oh, this is kind of cute." Didn't really see it coming, but that
Can I
being
chime in a little here? It
sure,
was really funny because all the people who I follow on Twitter, and like on Facebook and all these other social media places I'm on, they all started, going off on Batman. Like, why the heck are they talking about Batman? Like, you don't like Batman. And then after I watched the Batman thing, I'm like, oh, okay. So
well,
what was your thoughts when you saw it for the first time?
I thought it was just, I'm like, okay, this is odd, but kind of neat. But
Hey, I
there
dig it.
may
I like
be,
it.
yeah, there may be more to it than any of us actually realize.
You think so?
because the way Sonic, the social media team promoted it, and it was not just the US Sonic team, it was, the Japanese Sonic account did it as well. They put a hashtag DC Sonic, and DC, I think on the Instagram, responded, liked it and said, "See you soon." So the fact that they made a hashtag for it, the fact that DC has acknowledged it, the Sonic Japanese Twitter has posted it and tweeted to DC's Japanese office, in conjunction with what we talked about earlier in the year of a potential big crossover coming. Could that be the case? Could, in the next few weeks, we be seeing a Sonic the Hedgehog DC collaboration comic series? Is it a case of, will the Sonic heroes be meeting, the DC heroes? I mean, they met Spawn, so that was, they've done that kind of thing before.
When
Or
will
are
they
we
meet
going to,
Spawn again? That's all I can say.
or will they, in this case, take on the visage and the personas of the various DC heroes, or maybe it's just going to be exclusively Batman. Um, Batman has done crossovers. He's done 2 or 3 crossovers with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They actually turned the first one into an animated movie. It's actually really good. Um, you know, the MonsterVerse just crossed over with the DC. Justice League crossed over with Power Rangers not too long ago. So we're kind of in a weird thing where we could be seeing, yeah, we could be seeing something in the near future of a collaboration that would be really the first of its kind for Sonic, the Sonic franchise. I'm like, yes, as I mentioned, they crossed over with, Spawn and Image back in the Archie days, but that was one issue. And again, Image isn't as big as DC. This is something,
Yeah, DC's much bigger.
yeah. The reason they call it the Big Two. So, we'll keep an eye out on this. We'll see what happens. Any
Eyes
thoughts?
open.
Eyes open.
Thoughts? Neat. That's all I can say. I think Shadow looks great. As Batman, I've got no complaints. I think it's cool. I know
Well,
that.
let's.
What?
I was gonna say, I love it when you say what. You're like, what did you say? I'm like, oh, I didn't really say anything, but
Oh, okay.
it's a lot of fans have drawn the Sonic characters as DC heroes and villains, and a lot of times you see
And then this is what
Shadow
DC's
as
way of saying, "We
Batman.
see you. We see you."
You have Shadow as Batman. Naturally, people gravitate Rouge to Catwoman, even though she's technically a Batgirl.
You
Get
you
it?
know
Because
what? You know where my mind went
what?
as soon as I saw this. I thought, oh, cool. So I thought maybe because because I saw all these Sonic fans, sharing this Batman thing. I'm like, oh, is this like a, because the SatAM backgrounds, a lot of the backgrounds were developed by people who worked on Batman, the animated series. I thought for a minute there, I'm like, oh, is this Sonic fans, talking about some of the backgrounds of Batman the animated series? No, it's not. Would have been cool though.
Well, it's funny is because a lot of people have naturally, you know, again, drawn these characters. Amy as Harley Quinn is a popular one because of the hammer. Sonic is the Joker, is especially when he's Scourge. Even Tracy Yardley has done some artwork of the two of them. So
It
we'll
begs the
see where
question:
this.
who is Sally in all this? I think, yeah, I really do think
Okay,
Harley
so
Quinn is
here's my
definitely
thing.
Amy. But yeah.
So here's my thing. Sally and her dad work for our Batman fans who are listening. They would be a perfect Talia and Ra's al Ghul X-Spies, and it works better with Sonic as Batman, which they've done Sonic as Batman again in the Archie comics back in the day. So again, this is nothing new, but that was purely comical. Tails was of course Robin,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's like you look at, and I've seen people draw Blaze as Poison Ivy, though I think she'd be better as Firefly, and
Okay.
maybe Stick would be Poison Ivy, given, the jungle theme. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of neat. Again, surprise! The last thing I had on my birthday day bingo card, a Sonic Batman
Yeah,
collab.
right.
Uh,
It's not like you can
yeah,
plan for that, right?
it's also, again, it's releasing it today, so keep an eye out in the next couple weeks because if they're starting to, you know, lay some serious groundwork, I mean, this could be the start of something big. Again, I mentioned, you know, way back, I think it was, podcast 4 or 5 about, this, big collaboration that they're, crossover that they were going to do. And, now that we're seeing stuff like Naruto, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're starting to see some big franchises from the East meet franchises from the West. And, if you can you can tell fun stories, then that's awesome. That's fun. Let your imaginations run wild. Again, if anyone hasn't seen the Ninja Turtles Batman animated movie, it's on Max. It's really good. You get to see Batman fight the Shredder. You get to see Ra's team up with the Shredder. You get to see mutant versions of the Batman villains. It's really fun. And that's, what I'd like to see out of this. I'd like to see fun stuff.
Okay. All right then. I'm guessing we're near the end here. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, this is about it for the news. It's gonna be a bit crazy to edit, but yeah, again, thank you to all of our coasters who tune in, week out to us. Again, please follow us on socials, join our Discord. We'd love to talk to you, and catch us next time on same Sonic Podcast channel, same Sonic Podcast time.
That's the only time we
Na
could
na na
say
na
that,
na 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 na
probably.
shadow. Na 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 podcast.
I think I'll fade us out with the noise. All right,
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
ending in 3, 2, 1.